My name is Amara Jenkins, and for 4 years, I thought the worst thing my manager could do was ignore my complaints about handsy customers. I was wrong. So terribly, devastatingly wrong. Because while I was busy documenting drunk men grabbing my waist at table 7, my manager was doing something far more sinister behind my back. Something that would eventually bring federal agents to the doors of Rosario's Italian kitchen. Something that started with a camera and ended with handcuffs. But not on me. On him. Before I tell you exactly what Marcus did, and trust me, it was worse than anything I could have imagined, I need you to understand how I discovered it. It wasn't through my own detective work. It wasn't through suspicious behavior that finally clicked into place. It was through a text message from a friend I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. A single text that simply said, "Amara, I found something online. I think you need to see this. Please call me." When I called her back, what she told me made me drop my phone. My hands went cold. My vision blurred. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew about my job, my manager, and my own safety came crashing down around me like glass shattering on concrete. Before we continue with this story, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching this from right now? What city or country? Please write it in the comments below. I read every single comment, and I love knowing where all of you are tuning in from. And while you are there, I want to know something else. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was doing something terrible behind your back? Have you ever felt that gut punch moment when you realize everything was a lie? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone else recognize the warning signs before it is too late. And if you know someone who works in the service industry, someone who might need to hear this story, please share this video with them. Send it to your friends, your family, anyone who needs to know what can happen. It could protect them from what happened to me. Now hit that like button, subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and let us get back to how I discovered my manager was selling my photos online to strangers I had never met. I had worked at Rosario's Italian kitchen for 4 years. 4 long years of Friday night rushes when we couldn't catch our breath. 4 years of aching feet that throbbed by closing time. 4 years of perfecting the art of the polite smile when customers got too friendly with their hands or their comments. The restaurant was one of those places that tried to feel fancy without the fancy prices. Red checkered tablecloths that the owner insisted on ironing every morning. Candles in old wine bottles that dripped wax onto the tables in what he called authentic ambiance. Dean Martin playing softly in the background, the same playlist on repeat every single night. The kind of place where families came for anniversaries and couples came for first dates. My manager, Marcus Webb, had been there longer than anyone. 12 years he liked to remind us every chance he got. 12 years of running what he called the tightest ship in the restaurant business. He was in his late 40s, always wore pressed black shirts with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, and had this way of making you feel like you were constantly being evaluated. Not in an obvious way. More like he was always watching from the corner of his eye, always noting every little thing you did, always filing things away in his mind for later. When he looked at you, it felt like he was looking through you. For the first 2 years, I thought Marcus was just a strict manager, the kind who cared about details maybe a little too much. He insisted on staff photos for the restaurant website, which seemed reasonable enough. He wanted pictures of us in action, serving tables, carrying trays of steaming pasta, smiling at customers like we were having the best time of our lives. "It shows authenticity," he said with that confident smile of his. "People want to see real faces, not stock photos. They want to feel like they know the staff before they even walk in." It made sense at the time. Other restaurants did the same thing. I never thought twice about it. He also had a habit of taking candid shots during shifts. His phone was always out. always ready. For social media, he explained whenever anyone asked. The restaurant's Instagram needs fresh content. You can't just post the same 5 photos over and over. Again, it seemed normal. Every business was on social media these days. Every restaurant wanted that perfect shot of a happy server with a steaming plate of pasta. I smiled for the camera when he asked. We all did. We never thought to question it. But here is what I did not know. Here is what none of us knew. Those photos were not just going on Instagram. They were not just for the website. Marcus had found another use for them. A darker use, a sinister use that I never could have imagined in my worst nightmares. A use that made my stomach turn and my blood run cold when I finally discovered it. And the worst part? He had been doing it for years. Years and years. To me, to the other servers, to every young woman who smiled for his camera, without knowing what he was really capturing or where those images would end up. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the moment everything changed. I need to back up a little. Let me tell you about Keisha. Keisha Montgomery was my best friend from high school. We had been inseparable back then, the kind of friends who finished each other's sentences and spent every weekend together. But we had drifted apart after graduation, the way people do when life pulls them in different directions. She moved to Atlanta for a marketing job at some big firm. I stayed in our hometown and ended up at Rosario's, telling myself it was temporary. We texted occasionally, maybe once every few months, liked each other's posts on social media, but we had not actually talked, really talked, in almost 3 years, until March 15th. I remember the date because it was a Tuesday, my day off, and I was planning to do absolutely nothing productive. I was sitting on my couch in my favorite sweatpants, watching some cooking show where they made everything look so easy when my phone buzzed. Unknown number with an Atlanta area code. I almost did not answer. I had been getting so many spam calls lately, but something made me pick up. Call it instinct, call it fate. Whatever it was, I answered that call. Amara, it's Keisha Montgomery. Her voice sounded strange, tight, like she was trying to hold something back, trying to keep her voice steady when every instinct was telling her to panic. Keisha, oh my God, it's been forever. How are you? Amara, I need to tell you something. I found something online and I think you need to see it. I debated whether to even call you, but I couldn't just stay silent. You deserve to know. The way she said it made my skin prickle with goosebumps. There was no small talk, no catching up, no, how have you been, or we should really hang out more. Just that sentence, heavy with something I could not identify yet, but could feel like a weight pressing down on my chest. What do you mean? What did you find? There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing on the other end, slow and deliberate, like she was choosing her next words very carefully. Do you still work at that Italian restaurant? Rosario's? Yeah, I've been there 4 years now. Why? Another pause. Longer this time. I could hear traffic in the background on her end. She was outside somewhere, probably pacing. Amara, there's a website. It's one of those sketchy sites where people sell photos. Candid photos. Photos of women at work, at the gym, at restaurants. Photos taken without consent and sold to whoever wants to pay. My coworker showed it to me because she was doing research on online exploitation for a project at work. My heart started beating faster. A strange coldness spread through my chest. I did not like where this was going. I did not like it at all. Okay. And what does that have to do with me? Amara. Her voice cracked. You're on there. There are photos of you. In your work uniform. Dozens of them. And they're being sold. For money. To strangers. I did not say anything. I could not say anything. The words just hung there in the air between us, across all those miles of phone line, across all those years since we had last really talked. Amara, are you still there? I'm here, I whispered. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from someone else. Send me the link. Are you sure? It's really upsetting. I cried when I first saw it. Send it. 3 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A link. I clicked it with shaking fingers, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. And there I was, photo after photo after photo. Me carrying a tray of drinks. Me bending over to set down plates at a low table. Me reaching up to grab glasses from the high shelf, my shirt riding up. Me laughing with a customer, my head thrown back. Me adjusting my apron, pulling it tight against my body. Me, 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 over and over again. Angles I never would have posed for. Shots that focused on parts of my body I never agreed to display. All of them taken at Rosario's. All of them clearly taken by someone who had access to the restaurant every single day. Someone who was there, night after night, with a camera and a plan. The photos had prices next to them. $5 for the basic shots, $10 for the better angles. Some were listed as premium for $25. There were comments underneath from users with anonymous names, screen names that were just random numbers and letters. Comments I will not repeat here because they were too disgusting, too degrading. Comments that made me want to vomit right there on my couch. But that was not even the worst part. What I discovered next changed everything. I scrolled down further. There were other women too. Women I recognized. Maria, who worked the Tuesday lunch shift and always brought homemade cookies for everyone. Jennifer, the bartender who had been there almost as long as Marcus. Even sweet little Hannah, who had just turned 19 and was working her first real job while going to community college. All of them. All of us. On display like products in a catalog, with price tags attached to our bodies. And then I saw the username of the seller. Rosario Fan 2019. My hands went completely numb. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it echoing in my ears. I knew. In that moment, sitting on my couch with the cooking show still playing in the background like some kind of sick joke, I knew exactly who had been taking these photos. Exactly who had been uploading them. Exactly who had been selling images of my body, of our bodies, to complete strangers on the internet for God knows how long. I knew who had been profiting from our trust, our innocence, our complete lack of suspicion. Marcus Webb, my manager, the man who insisted on staff photos for authenticity, the man who was always snapping candid shots for social media, the man who had smiled at me just last week, put his hand on my shoulder in what I thought was a fatherly way, and told me I was one of his best servers. That same hand had been uploading photos of me for profit. That same smile had been hiding the darkest kind of betrayal. I dropped my phone. It clattered onto the hardwood floor, the screen cracking slightly in the corner. And I just sat there, staring at nothing, feeling like the walls were closing in around me, like the air in the room had turned thick and unbreathable. But here is the thing about me that Marcus did not know. Here is what my manager never understood when he decided to turn me into a product for strangers to purchase. I do not crumble when I am hurt. I do not fall apart when I am betrayed. I get quiet. I get focused. I get methodical. And I start documenting everything. Because what Marcus did to me and to the other servers at Rosario's was not just a violation of trust. It was not just creepy behavior from a bad boss who needed to be reported to HR. What Marcus did was a federal crime. And I was going to make absolutely sure he paid for every single photo he ever sold. The first thing I did was take screenshots. Hundreds of them. Every photo of me on that website saved. Every photo of my coworkers saved. Every disgusting comment saved. Every price tag saved. Every piece of evidence that proved what Marcus had been doing. I saved them to 3 different places. My phone, my laptop, a USB drive I hid in my sock drawer where no one would ever think to look. Then I called Keisha back. Keisha, I need you to send me everything you can find about this website. Who runs it? How it works? How people upload content? Everything you can dig up. Amara, what are you going to do? I'm going to destroy him. She was quiet for a moment. Then, good. I'll help however I can. Over the next few days, Keisha and I did research late into the night. The website was hosted overseas, which made it complicated from a legal standpoint. But the people uploading content were required to create accounts. Those accounts could be traced. IP addresses could be tracked. And Marcus had made a critical mistake that would eventually lead to his downfall. He had been sloppy, overconfident. He had used the same username on multiple platforms. Rosario Fan 2019 was not just his seller name on that photo site. It was also his gaming username on several platforms. His forum username where he discussed sports. His email handle that Keisha managed to connect through some clever searching. I found his email address connected to the account. It was a fake name, some random combination of letters and numbers. But it was linked to a payment system. Someone was receiving money for those photos. And that someone had made the incredibly stupid decision to connect a traceable PayPal account to receive payments. But I did not stop there. I needed more evidence. I needed to prove beyond any doubt that Marcus was the one taking these photos. So I went back to work. I acted normal, smiled at customers, did my job exactly like I always had. But I watched. I watched everything Marcus did with new eyes. And what I saw made everything so much worse. Marcus always had his phone out during shifts. I had never paid close attention before, but now I noticed everything. The way he held it at certain angles when servers walked by. The way he lingered near the beverage station where we had to reach up for glasses on the top shelf. The way he stood by the kitchen door where we had to bend down to grab supplies from the low shelves. He was still doing it. Right there, night after night. Right in front of everyone, and no one had ever noticed because we all trusted him. I bought a small recording device online, the kind that looks like an ordinary pen. I kept it in my apron pocket every single shift. When Marcus came near me with his phone angled a certain suspicious way, I made sure to capture it. When he asked me to pose for a website update photo, I agreed with a smile while the recorder caught every word he said. Stand over there, Amara. Yeah, by the window. The light is better there. Turn a little to the left. Perfect. Now bend down like you're picking something up from the floor. Hold it. Perfect. He said it so casually, like it was completely normal, like he had done it 100 times before. Because he had. Hundreds of times. To all of us. I also talked to the other servers. Carefully. Quietly. One by one, during breaks or after shifts, when Marcus was not around. I did not tell them what I knew yet. I just asked questions, trying to see if anyone else had noticed something off about his behavior. Hey Maria, have you ever felt weird about all the photos Marcus takes? Maria's face changed. Just for a second, a flicker of something uncomfortable passed across her features, but I caught it. I mean, yeah, sometimes the angles seem a little, I don't know, creepy? Like he's not really focused on the food. Has he ever asked you to pose in specific ways? All the time. He's always like, bend down a little more, reach up higher, turn to the side. I just figured he was being picky about the shots for social media. You know how he is about details. Jennifer, the bartender, told me Marcus had been taking photos for years, since long before I even started working there. I asked him once why he needed so many pictures, she said, lowering her voice and glancing around to make sure he was not nearby. He told me the website gets updated seasonally and he likes to have options. But Amara, I looked at our website last month out of curiosity. It's had the same photos since 2018, the exact same ones. None of the new shots are on there. Hannah, the youngest server, got tears in her eyes when I asked her about it. He makes me uncomfortable, she admitted, twisting her apron strings nervously. But I didn't want to say anything. He's the manager. I need this job. I'm paying my own way through school. I can't afford to cause problems or make enemies. You're not alone, I told her, putting my hand on her arm reassuringly. None of us are alone anymore. We're going to fix this together, I promise you. By the end of April, I had a folder full of evidence, recordings of Marcus directing photo shoots with suspicious instructions, screenshots from the website showing our images for sale with prices attached, written testimony from 4 other servers who had noticed his behavior and agreed to document their experiences. Research showing that Rosario Fan 2019 was connected to Marcus's known accounts across multiple platforms, payment records showing money flowing into an account that could be traced back to him. But this was not something I could take to local police and expect real results. This was not a simple workplace harassment case. This was exploitation. This was distribution of intimate images without consent. This was potentially trafficking in exploitative content across state lines, since the website had users from all over the country paying for photos of women they had never met. This was a federal case, and that meant one thing: FBI. I did not know how to contact the FBI. I had never even thought about it before in my entire life, so I did what anyone in 2023 would do. I Googled it. Turns out they have a tip line. They have a website where you can submit reports online, and they have a specific division that deals with online exploitation and cybercrime. I submitted everything, every screenshot, every recording, every piece of documentation I had gathered over those 6 weeks of careful, methodical investigation. I explained who I was, where I worked, and what I had discovered. I named Marcus Webb. I provided his connection to the Rosario Fan 2019 account. I gave them every single piece of evidence I had collected. Then I waited. 2 weeks passed. 2 of the longest weeks of my entire life. I kept working at Rosario's. I kept smiling at Marcus. I kept pretending everything was normal, that nothing had changed. But inside, I was counting the days, watching the door every time someone walked in, wondering if anything would happen or if my report had disappeared into some bureaucratic void where nothing ever got done. And then, on a Thursday evening in May, everything changed forever. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment I had dreamed about, the moment that made every sleepless night and every fake smile at Marcus worth it. I was working the dinner shift. The restaurant was busy, maybe 3/4 full. Families at the big round tables celebrating birthdays and graduations. Couples in the corner booths holding hands across the checkered tablecloths. The usual Thursday crowd. Marcus was doing his usual rounds, checking tables, barking orders at the kitchen staff, clipboard in hand like he was running some kind of military operation. He had no idea what was coming. None at all. I was refilling waters at a foretop near the window when the front door opened. 2 men walked in. They wore suits. Not the kind of suits restaurant customers wear. Not business casual. These were government suits. Dark. Serious. The kind of suits that meant business. They approached the hostess stand with purpose, and I saw one of them flash something. A badge. My heart stopped. Then started again, pounding so hard I thought everyone in the restaurant could hear it. The hostess, looking confused and a little frightened, pointed toward Marcus, who was standing near the bar, checking receipts on his tablet, completely oblivious to what was about to happen to him. The 2 men walked over to him with that calm, purposeful stride that law enforcement always has. I could not hear what they said, but I saw Marcus's face change. The color drained out of it like someone had pulled a plug. His confident posture crumbled. His hand started shaking so badly he dropped his tablet and it clattered to the floor. One of the agents said something else. Marcus shook his head, then nodded, then shook his head again. He looked like a man watching his entire life collapse in real time, because that is exactly what was happening. The agents escorted Marcus toward the back office. Everyone in the restaurant was watching now. The customers had stopped eating. The other servers had frozen in their tracks. Even the kitchen staff had come out to see what was happening. Jennifer caught my eye from behind the bar. She looked confused, scared. I just nodded at her. A small nod that said, "It's okay. This is supposed to happen. This is justice." 20 minutes later, Marcus walked out of that office in handcuffs. I will never forget the look on his face as he passed me. It was shock, disbelief, and underneath that, something else. Fear. Pure, animal fear. The fear of a man who had thought he was untouchable, who had gotten away with this for years, suddenly realizing he was not untouchable at all. He did not say anything as they walked him past me. He just stared, his eyes meeting mine for one long moment. And in that moment, I saw him realize. I saw him understand. He knew it was me. He knew I had done this, and there was nothing he could do about it anymore. The agents walked him through the restaurant, past all the tables he had managed for 12 years, past all the servers he had exploited, past everything he thought he had built. And then he was gone. Out the door. Into a waiting car. Gone. The restaurant closed for the night after that. No one felt like working. No one felt like eating either. The owner, Mr. Rosario himself, showed up an hour later. He was an older man, in his 70s, who had mostly retired and left the day-to-day operations to Marcus years ago. The look on his face when the agents explained what Marcus had been doing was absolutely devastating. He had to sit down. His hands were shaking. "He was like a son to me," Mr. Rosario kept saying. "I trusted him completely. I let him run everything. How could I not know? How could I not see what he was doing under my roof?" The FBI wanted to talk to all of us. Every server, every bartender, every busboy who had ever been photographed by Marcus. They took statements that night and over the following weeks. They showed us printouts from the website, asking us to confirm that the photos were taken without our knowledge or consent. Every single one of us confirmed. Every single one of us had been victimized. Every single one of us had trusted Marcus, and every single one of us had been betrayed. The scope of what Marcus had done was staggering. He had been selling photos for over 5 years, hundreds of images, dozens of women, tens of thousands of dollars in profit, all from exploiting the people who worked for him, the people who trusted him, the people who had no idea their bodies were being sold to strangers on the internet. But the story does not end there. What the FBI found when they searched Marcus's computer was even worse than what I had discovered on my own. He had folders. Organized, labeled folders with dates and names. Not just candid shots from the restaurant, but close-up images, zoomed images. Images that had been edited to remove clothing using AI software. Some of them were of me. Some of them were of Hannah, who was barely legal. Some of them were of former employees who had quit years ago, never knowing what Marcus had done to their images after they left. There was also communication. Messages between Marcus and other sellers. A network of people who traded and sold exploitative content. Marcus was not just a lone creep with a camera and a side hustle. He was part of something bigger. Something organized. Something that the FBI was very, very interested in dismantling completely. The charges against Marcus Webb were extensive. Production and distribution of exploitative intimate imagery, wire fraud, computer crimes, violations of federal privacy laws. Each photo, each sale, each victim added to the count. By the time the prosecutors were finished adding up all the charges, Marcus was facing decades in federal prison. His lawyer tried to argue that the photos were harmless, that they were taken in a public restaurant, that there was no expectation of privacy. But the judge was not buying any of it. The images had been manipulated and enhanced. They had been sold without consent. They had been distributed for profit to paying customers. And the pattern of behavior, the years of exploitation, the deliberate deception, all of it pointed to a calculated predatory operation. During the trial, I testified, I sat in that witness stand, in front of a packed courtroom, and looked Marcus directly in the eyes as I described what he had done, how he had violated my trust and the trust of every woman who worked for him, how he had made me feel unsafe in my own workplace, how he had turned my body into merchandise without my knowledge or consent, how I had discovered my photos being sold online like I was nothing more than a product on a shelf. I thought he was just a strict manager who cared about details, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was racing. I thought the photos were for the restaurant website. I thought he was trying to help the business grow. I never imagined, not in my wildest nightmares, that every time I reached for a glass or bent down to pick up a napkin, I was being cataloged and sold to the highest bidder. I trusted him. We all trusted him, and he used that trust to exploit us. The other servers testified too. Maria, Jennifer, Hannah, all of them telling their stories, all of them facing Marcus as he sat at the defense table in his orange jumpsuit, his expensive lawyer whispering in his ear. Hannah's testimony was particularly devastating. She broke down on the stand, describing how uncomfortable Marcus had made her feel from day one. He always made me pose in certain ways, she said through tears. I thought I was just being paranoid. I told myself I was overreacting, but I wasn't. He was really doing it. He was really selling pictures of me. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When they came back, the foreman stood up and read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Every single charge. I was sitting in the gallery when I heard it, and I felt tears streaming down my face. Not tears of sadness, tears of relief, tears of vindication, tears of justice finally being served after so many years of exploitation. Marcus Webb was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. 18 years. The judge called his crimes a profound violation of trust and human dignity. She said he had abused his position of power in the most despicable way possible, and that his victims deserved every protection the law could offer. The civil lawsuits that followed resulted in significant settlements, enough for each of us to start over, to heal, to try to rebuild what Marcus had taken from us. Mr. Rosario closed the restaurant 3 months after the arrest. He could not bear to walk into that building knowing what had happened there. As for me, I found a new job at a restaurant where I feel safe and respected. More than that, I found my voice. I started speaking publicly about what happened. I testified before a state legislature considering stronger privacy laws. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from an FBI agent. He told me my report had been instrumental in the investigation, that because of what I did, a network of exploiters had been exposed. Last month, I ran into Hannah at a coffee shop. She told me she was studying criminal justice now, that she wanted to work for the FBI someday. Because of you, she said, her eyes shining with determination and hope. Because you showed me that regular people can fight back against even the most powerful predators. My name is Amara Jenkins. For 4 long years, my manager sold my photos online without my knowledge. I found out from a friend. The FBI found out from me. If this ever happened to you, know that you are not alone. Document everything. Tell someone you trust. Contact the authorities. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video. Subscribe to this channel. This is where exploitation meets evidence. This is where a manager who thought he was untouchable now met federal prison. And this is my story. The powerful true story of how I took back my power, one screenshot at a time.